Welcome to the second in our series of interviews with the winners of the Association of the Business Psychology Excellence Awards. We'll be hearing from Tamsin Parker, Director of People and Culture at LifeSearch, and Alan Williams of the service brand Global, who were the 2015 winners in the Excellence in Employee Engagement Award.
Hello, I'm Tamsin Parker. I'm the People and Culture Director for LifeSearch. LifeSearch is a small business and we protect people against financial misfortune. We had a challenge in 2013 that our attrition rate was too high and we wanted to bring that down, and so I began to work with Alan to make that happen.
I'm Alan Williams and I'm the founder and managing director of service brand Global. My company helps organisations to deliver inspiring service to make themselves different in their marketplaces. And one of the key tools that I use to achieve that is called the 31 Practices approach.
So our retention rate of our trusted staff was too poor. It was around about 39%, and we knew that we had a challenge about our culture and the values and the purpose of the organisation. So we worked with several groups across our business. The leadership team were very engaged, but we also went out and we met all 12 teams across the business. So we took a bottom-up approach where people created a new culture statement and they redefined our 5 key values. We also used a social media platform that we'd never had before in the business, and it was brand new. We were very brave with our approach to that because we allowed people to talk about whatever they wanted to. It was a very open forum, and all that was very successful. I then faced a challenge from our people because they kept asking me, how do we practically put into action all of these wonderful words about our culture? And I saw Alan at a COPD seminar and I was impressed with what he did.
I was delivering a talk about the 31 Practices approach, and the technique that I use is to actually give a flavour of the workshops, the co-creation workshops that we do with organisations. And I think that really gets across how practical and tangible the approach is, rather than just being academic or educational.
So the nature of the challenge that I faced was our people understood the 5 values that we have in business, but they constantly asked me, how do we put that into practice? What's the thinking behind it and how can we make that real? And I did struggle with that myself, and I needed to seek some external counsel on how we could make that real.
Yeah, and the 31 Practices approach originally was a very operational approach. But I wasn't satisfied with leaving it at that. I knew that it worked, but I was curious to understand the psychology that underpinned that. So I set out to find an expert in organisational psychology, Alison Wybrow, and ultimately we co-authored our book together. And in the book it explains not only how the 31 Practices approach works in some detail, but all of the psychological underpinnings for it as well.
What made a real difference to our business was everybody being engaged with the project. So we ran these co-creation workshops, as we call them, and absolutely all of the 250 people at LifeSearch took part in that. They helped to shape what our practices are, so they all understood the psychological thinking behind it, which was something that was very new to them, but it made it very real. They were able to bring that into their daily working life. Yeah,
the other thing that I think is important about those workshops is that we use metaphor. So when people are thinking about the topic and the subject matter, they're kind of not confined by their work lens. They're drawing on their life experiences, and that means that they're able to provide really rich input.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What we were hoping to achieve for our business was to see a sharp downturn in our attrition rates. It was painful that we were investing in training and that people were leaving. We tracked that back to realise that people weren't as engaged with the purpose of LifeSearch and why we were here, and we knew that we needed everybody to be pointing north. And so that was one of the key challenges we had, and what we found that when we finished the project was our attrition rate had halved, it had gone down by 20%, and that our engagement scores had taken an upturn.
Yes. I think you were particularly strong on that whole measurement piece because you identified quantitative areas. So not only the retention piece but also the customer satisfaction piece, for instance. I remember that jumped significantly. But also you didn't leave it to those hard measures, you looked at the evidence-based stuff as well. And I remember some of the quotes from some of you people about how they had noticed such a big impact.
Yeah, exactly how it feels to work in the business.
Yeah.
It was really important to me that this project wasn't seen as an HR-led project. I wanted to make sure that everybody across the business understood that they had to play a part in it, play a role in it. We worked a lot with the senior management team, and they had to understand what was needed, and the fact that the shadow that they cast was a really strong one. We then also chose champions across the business, both in the social media aspect I was talking about. We had people who were champions of our new site, and they were kind of protecting its use and not making it about management speak, making it very real. We also we were very clear that we wanted all of the groups that we ran across the business to be blended groups, so we didn't want people to be from the IT team or from the customer service team. We wanted them to be mixed, and again there was no hierarchy to it. We wanted to make sure that everybody felt comfortable and safe in the environment. So we had some very strong project methodology behind it. We knew the timelines we were running to, we knew when things had to happen, but we tried to be very open and collaborative in our approach.
And all of those things really fitted with the way the 31 Practices approach works, because I'm an operator originally in the commercial hospitality management field, and it used to frustrate me that you'd have either a marketing initiative or a human resources initiative or a PR initiative, and what I was always about was making sure that the customer experience was joined up and holistic from a bunch of people that were really enthused to represent the organisation. And so all of these things that Tamsin you just talked about are part of what makes the 31 Practices approach so robust and strong. And it's basically based on, first to identify what it is that you're going to do, then to do it, then to understand what impact it's had, and then to refine it as you go. So it's not rocket science, but there's a very robust structure there to help you along the way.
We did a lot of inspecting what we expect, so we changed our quantity assessment forms for the advisors, and we made sure that our values and our culture statements were woven into that, so that we could see that our advisors were making a change to their behaviours, and we were able to track that and show that there was a difference.
And that reminds me, one of the questions that I ask so much during a 31 Practices project is, what does that look like? Because unless you can answer that question, it's kind of a bit immaterial.
Yeah. We're coming to the end of our 3-year project now, and I'm really proud to say it's had a lasting impact. Our retention of staff is very strong, and we have really strong engagement scores within the business now. We have taken our culture statement, our values and our 31 Practices, and we've shared them with our business partners that we work with, and we're very proud of that. So we're in a position now where we have a very strong brand because of the project that we worked on together.
What excites me is that it kind of doesn't feel like the end of a project. It just feels like it's part of the way that you do things now. So for instance, your first birthday celebrations that are coming up, it's just great to hear that you're having birthday cards and cupcakes and competitions, and just really engaging with people at a very natural level rather than this kind of more forced corporate style that sometimes happens.
Absolutely, yeah. People understand why they're a part of the LifeSearch family, and it's because of this project that we've worked on. I think there are two things. People need to be naturally curious to properly understand what the problem was. I think that when I looked at our retention and saw that it wasn't strong, I didn't just immediately look at hard data. I lifted the lid to understand how our people felt. And I was quite brave, and I made sure that all of our leaders understood what I was doing and why I needed to have conversations with people. And people shared with me how negative they felt about working for LifeSearch at that time, and I knew that we had a real challenge to tackle. So I would be brave and curious, I think.
Well, I've got 3, I think. The first is the importance of Point North, so everybody understanding explicitly what is expected and all moving together in that same direction. The other is involvement, so not underestimating the power of people's life experiences that they can bring to work, rather than thinking that it's only the senior people that have got a brain. And the third one is positive reinforcement. So understanding how powerful it can be just to thank people and recognise when they're doing the things that you want them to be doing.